A very, very good morning to you. My name is Theophilus van Rensburg-Linster. The time is 7 a.m., and that is Central European time. It is also South African time. If you're joining us from another time zone, you have timely tuned in to the fifth connection. I am joined during these morning moments by Terence Martin. Terry, good morning to you.
Good morning, Theo, and good morning, listeners, on this last workday
Of
of the
this
week.
week, yes. And it is important to realize that it is also a Friday because some people's last week of the work week finishes on Tuesday. None of us in this orbit at the moment is guilty of that. For those of you who have taken the time to tune in and listen to this particular set of moments with us, thank you, thank you, thank you. Terry, we have been working through the book of Jeremiah, and you have assisted us greatly to think soundly through some of the real challenges that surfaces here. And this morning we find ourselves in a rather lengthy section. For those of you who want to quickly get over there, because that's where Terry will spend his time this morning as well. It's Jeremiah chapter 23 from verse 9 to 40. So while you get your way there, navigate there, and we'll join you in a few seconds. Yes, welcome back. Thank you so very much again for spending your time with us this morning. Terry, please guide us through this particular chapter in the story, unfolding story of Jeremiah and God's people, of course.
The words of that famous poem, truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet the scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch over his own. While truth may be on the scaffold in Western culture, that scaffold will ultimately sway the future, because truth will win. That which corresponds to reality, that which is really real, is going to triumph. And so the people of God are dabbling deeply. They are intoxicated with error. Fake news is the order of the day. The fake news mongers, called prophets, are crying out for the ear of the people. Isn't that true today? Social media is captivating the minds of millions, millions upon millions. It is swaying public opinion. It is impacting political decisions. So how do you stay in the truth and stay away from error? How do you stay in the truth while you stay away from error? We're going to see this morning that error is a way of infecting not only us, but infecting those around us and infecting our surroundings. It's what we call embedding error. Truth needs to be embodied, but error can also be embodied. Truth needs to be embedded, but so can error. And error has a great contagion that goes with it. It infects all of what we touch and what we do. It's slanted. We develop a squint, and we can't see straight. So verse 9 to verse 40 of 23 is a very long section, but at the heart of this section of the story, remember 52 chapters, 52 episodes of story. Stories coming out of or from the entries of Jerry's journal, because the nature of the text is autobiographical. And Jeremiah is tracking these entries. And the entry in 9 to 40 looks at this idea of just how devastating it is to imbibe error. You see, the very idea of a fact, that is a social contract because every fact has a social construct to it. And it has a beginning, it has an origin. I think Stuart Firestein's book is very enlightening how ignorance drives science. And all scientists know uh, that it is facts that are unreliable. And so, how does that affect believers and how they view truth? Well, believers need to navigate what has commonly been called uh, truthifiability. It's not a word you're going to find in Oxford at the moment, in the Oxford Dictionary. How do you truthify a fact? How do you make sure that this is what is really real? It's not something that is just up for grabs. It's not fake news. It corresponds to reality, it corresponds to that which is happening on the ground. And so the two books that since 2016 that has really captivated the minds of thinkers and thinking people is both of them are entitled Post Truth with subtitles. The one is by Evan Davis, and the other one is by Matthew Dancona. And in it, they would argue that the one argues that we have hit the height, we have hit the tipping point on the issue. I couldn't say dogmatically whether Western culture has moved past the tipping point, but if that is so, we are on very, very dangerous ground. Well, the people of God here in chapter 23 of Jeremiah are right in that situation. It's a post truth scenario. Chapter 9, verse number 3 says that truth has perished from their lips. If you can find truth in the square, Jeremiah, more power to you. So be it. If the prophets can find it, great stuff. But truth has died. There is a death knell to truth. And so you see, concerning the prophets, God through the prophets is saying, my heart is broken within me. All my bones shake. I'm like a drunken man, like a man overcome by wine because of the Lord and because of his holy words, his words that are set apart over against the words of the prophet or the prophets. Verse 13, the prophets in Samaria over against the words of the prophets in Jerusalem in verse 14. But in the prophets of Samaria and in the prophets of Jerusalem, I have seen a horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen the hands of evildoers so that no one turns from his evil. And so truth has penetrated the culture. And from verse 16 onwards, the story is going to track the idea of how that if you were a fly on the wall, if you were part of the divine council that consulted, according to verse 18, for whom among them, the prophets, has stood in the counsel of the Lord. I take it that that is a reference to the divine counsel in the heavens, coming out of Psalm 82 and Psalm 89. The spirit beings are in counsel with God to see and to hear his word. If you've been there, if you've paid attention to his word and listened, behold, the storm of the Lord, wrath has gone forth, a whirling tempest. It will burst upon the head of the wicked. The anger of the Lord will not turn back. I did not send the prophets, verse 21 says, yet they ran. I did not speak to them, yet they prophesied. But if they were a fly on the wall, if they were part of my divine counsel and part of the consultation in the heavens as to what my words to my people really were and really are, it would be a different ball game. But they've chosen to believe the lie. Verse 26, how long shall there be lies in the heart of the prophets who prophesy lies, who prophesy the deceit of their own heart? Fake news is the order of the day. But listen to what real news is and sounds like. Verse 29. Is not my word like fire, declares the Lord, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces? We used to sing a song as kids. God's word is like a hammer that breaketh the rock in twain. Isn't that significant? It can split the hardest thing down the middle. It's like a fire that consumes, a lamp to guide our footsteps, and a light on the stormy main. It goes on to say, a sword that has two edges and a mirror ourselves to see. Oh, yes, this is the book of books, the Bible. And so there is no profit. They do not profit this people at all by their lies and their recklessness. Therefore, verse 39 says, I will surely lift you up and cast you away from my presence. Because error is embedded in the culture. Error can be embodied, truth can be exemplified, but error can be embedded. In other words, it infects us as people, it infects those around us, and it infects our environment, and it infects the way we see and the way we interpret reality. I will cast you away from my presence, you and the city that I gave to your fathers. There is the embedding. You and the city. The city is going to come under the kosh because I'm going to execute judgment. And I will bring upon you everlasting reproach and perpetual shame, which shall not be forgotten. Why does this sound so harsh? Well, you need to understand what happens when a nation, when a civilization, when Western culture steps away from its truth base, when it kicks its moral base under the table, under the bed, and says, we have come of age. We don't need truth. Truth is what I make it out to be, even though it doesn't correspond to reality. So it's back to life, as that commercial song says, back to reality, back to the here and now. Oh, we are so duped. We can't even distinguish real news from fake news. We are in terrible shape, men and women, but we need to look to the Lord. He is the true and living way. John 14:6 says of Jesus, I am the true and living way. No man gets home. Where's home? The Father. No man gets home except through me. And oh, how we need a turn back, a return to the truth, because truth is what will carry us through the most stormy times of our life. Let's look to God. He is the true and living way. Back to you, Theo.
Well, Terry, thank you.